Hey everybody, welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. Today is the first day of September 2021, and this is episode 355. If you're looking to get your questions answered, you're in the right place. If you're watching us live, thanks for being here. If you're catching the replay, that's cool too. We get it. You can't always just come hang out and spend 24/7 with us. We get it. We're sad, but it's okay. We get it. So we got a lot of great questions already today. If you've got any more, make sure that you ask them. And again, if you're checking out the replay, just know you can always go to semanticmastery.com/HD questions and ask your questions there. One of the benefits though of being live is that, if we need clarifications or if your question isn't clear, there's a follow-up part to that we can always get to that. And if you're not live, can't do that. So anyways, with that said, let's say hello to everyone real quick, and then a couple quick announcements, and then we'll jump into getting your questions answered. So Marco, looking nice and sunny up there. How you doing today?
Oh man, it's beautiful. Weather is getting cooler. We're 82 today, so we'll go down to 80 as we head on to the end of the year. Then we'll be back up into full summer. Costa Rica is beautiful, man. Costa Rica is beautiful. One thing I want to mention.
Yeah.
Any of you coming on here for the first time, or even people who repeat, do not post your URL live. This is a public forum. The only thing that you have to do to get in here is sign up with an email, and you can access the URL. Do not post any client or any personal stuff unless you don't mind getting spammed, because there are idiots out here who make it a point to spam you just because they can. And so please don't, please give us an example, and you can always not use your URL, but use the example URL, and let that example URL get spammed. Just a word of warning for people. Otherwise, it's beautiful. I'm ready for Hump Day Hangouts. Love Hump Day Hangouts. Let's go.
Nice. All right. Well, Chris, how about you? How you doing today?
Doing good. Just came in here. It's a good day. Let's call it that way. Lots of busy work and stuff. Lots of things happening, and yeah, glad to be here.
Whoops, still figuring out after a few years how to work the mute button. So Bradley, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Busy as can be, but good. Glad to be here. Ready to rock and roll. Although we're getting flooded from all the rain from that Hurricane Ida or whatever the hell it was. And we're way on the East Coast, but there's remnants of it. And we've been getting massive amounts of rain today. But other than that, things are good. Haven't floated away yet.
That's good, man. That's good. Real quick, just wanted to say, everyone, of course, again, thanks for watching. If you got any comments, questions, go ahead, pop them in. If you're watching the replay, you can always ask your questions ahead of time, which is what we ask people to do if they can't join us live at semanticmastery.com/HD questions. Last but not least, just wanted to make a couple more notes. We are lining up a couple additional speakers. I'm talking to two different people for POFU Live. So in addition to what we've already announced, all the speakers there, you can find out all about that at pofulive.com. Find out the rundown there. We're now entering the under 30 days to go until POFU Live 2021. So if you haven't gone and checked that out, please do. We've still got VIP tickets available, so we can fit some more people in there. We've got the main tickets available, and really looking forward to that. That's the last weekend in September. The VIP day is the 24th on a Friday, and then we've got Saturday and Sunday really jam-packed with presentations. So really looking forward to that and all the great info we're going to be covering there. So pofulive.com is the place to go for that. And then we've had several people in the last week joining our mastermind, and you can find out more about that at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. Been really good to find out more about these people, what they're doing, what their goals are, and how that lines up with growing their agencies, and not only getting access to us, but getting access to other people who are doing the same thing, right? It's really important to have a peer group, surround yourself with people who are going in the same direction and want to improve and want to grow. So I forget, maybe you guys can help me out here. Is this some famous business or just leadership thing? You are the result of the 5 people you spend your time with, or something like that. I mean, there's variations upon variations of this, but I'm a big believer of that. You are who you spend your time around. And so I think that if you're looking to grow, then the mastermind is definitely a good place for you to be if you want to grow an agency. Chris, you looking very serious. Do you know the quote I'm talking about? Is it like 5 people, 8 people? I feel like I'm flailing here. Is it a thing?
Well, the 5 or 10 people closest to you are pretty much like, it's usually on the income level. That's where they usually like compared to. So like usually they're like the 5 people next to you, like what their income is like is also like you're in their proximity as well on the income level. But like obviously it depends. Those are, in my opinion, applies for like how motivated you are, what sports you're doing and stuff, because everybody is building his own environment, right? And it's usually like attracts like, and like you basically surround yourself with like other people like-minded and like who are close to you. And also like if you want to like reach a higher level or like push yourself further ahead, and the easiest way is like obviously to surround yourself with people who like already have done what you want to achieve, or like who have been there, or like are on the same path as you, obviously.
That's what masterminds are all about.
Exactly.
They say birds of a feather flock together, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I'll save that maybe for a mastermind webinar. Getting kind of circular here, but I'll have to. I've told some people about this, but maybe I'll tell the mastermind about how I quit a job as an engineer, and a lot of that had to be with who I spent my time around. And so, realizing how important that is and the positive and very negative effects that can have on your life is very real. So anyways, guys, that's the high level stuff I wanted to cover today. Is there anything else we need to go over?
Nope, just
Let's do this.
We got a mastermind webinar coming up tomorrow with me, and I got a lot of stuff I'm going to be covering. Got a lot of new members, like you said, in the last week. We've had 4 or 5 new members come in, and they were asking specifically about GMB training. So I'm going to be doing some of that tomorrow for the mastermind webinar.
Ooh, nice. Bradley, that reminds me too. I think I'm going to be talking on Friday on mine. I've got a mastermind webinar, and Walt and a couple other people have been asking me about some project management stuff. So I'm going to be talking, I think I'll just lift up the skirts, if you will, on my ClickUp and how I manage clients in there. So that should be
just make sure you wear some panties.
So we're looking
no
at
panties in this
Friday.
webinar, for better or worse. So
we're looking up skirts on Friday. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, let me grab the screen. You guys will see my screen, right?
We are now.
Okay. So it looks like the first question is from Tori. Says, hey guys, what do I do when the security update banner isn't showing? So he's talking about the security update for Google Drive files. You just wait till it comes back, as far as I know. Is that right?
There's nothing that we can do. We don't control Google. Google gave it, then they took it away.
Yeah.
And so what can we do other than wait? They gave this suggestion in a webmaster forum or a blog post or whatever for that site search, or that's a drive operator
right
search. And it does pull up some files, but then you don't have the ability really to change whether you opt in or out of the security update. And the most important thing here for us is being able to opt out of the security update if we have drive files and if we have folders and stacks that we don't want to be part of that security update, because the security update will kill your public settings and it won't show it. It'll be useless. I just did an update yesterday, an update video in the free heavy hitter Facebook group about this, because I had done a previous one where I showed the banner, then Google takes it away. So I had to do another one showing, hey, look, the banner's taken away. And I mean, what can we do other than go complain to Google that we can't manipulate more than we already can? That's not going to work.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on with Google right now, because I saw that post in the RYS Academy group today. And then also I just set up another Google Workspace account today with a domain that I purchased through Google Domains, and or domains.google, whatever. Anyway, usually when you do that, when you buy a domain through Google Domains, and then throughout the checkout process, you check the box to set up a Workspace account on it. And I've set up dozens of these over the last year, and like they're usually the Gmail account and everything on the new Workspace account is ready to go within minutes. And it's been like 3 hours since I set this one up earlier today, and I still can't access Gmail or anything. I even contacted Google support chat on the support chat and asked them, and they're like, yeah, it can take up to 24 hours to propagate. And I've never experienced that. And I've literally set up dozens of these accounts in that exact same manner. And so I think there's just some interesting stuff going on behind the scenes at Google right now. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, SEO Pro says, what service do you use to generate your review videos such as this one? That's David Sprague's Rep Videos. Strategic Marketer, I think, is the name of his company now. David Sprague Rep Videos. You have to probably I don't know if they have a public sign up, sales page for that or not. But you could probably contact their support and they'll send you a way to sign up for it. But yeah, it's a great service. It's like $100 a month. And you get like, I think 25 video credits per month. And it's really, really good for pumping out review videos really quick. It's almost, I mean, you can pretty much set it up. Once you set it up, it can automate. You can create basically a schedule that you want them to produce the videos, and it'll automatically upload it to YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr and a couple other locations if you choose to. So it's a good service. I like it. Like I said, it's $100 a month. David Sprague's Rep Videos. Sorry, I don't have a link for you, but like I said, you might have to even contact their support if you can't find a public purchase link for that. But I know in the past I've contacted their support to get the link to send to other people that have asked a similar question as you, and they've always given it to me. So I would just suggest you check it out. Contact their support. Next is Emil says, and he lists the website URL, Eco Cleaning NYC Company. I want to redo sites architecture for service areas like theirs. And then he lists another website, but is it worth to do or better just order to you some keywords without radical changes to site structure? What keywords can you recommend if we go with the service area pages? What keywords can you recommend if we go with the current site structure? Well, to be honest, Emil, this is a type of question that we would have to start clicking through and trying to analyze. And that's not what this forum or setting is for. That's what our mastermind is for, where we can audit and analyze and provide suggestions, by kind of auditing an existing website and giving you suggestions. In a forum like this, where we're supposed to be answering questions, we could take a lot of time clicking through and trying to analyze. And a lot of time that it's difficult to do in real time as well. Something like this is typically a type of question that we would want to look at ahead of time, which again, that's what the mastermind is for, or one of our paid groups. So has anybody had a chance to take a look at this one in particular?
No, because I mean that he's getting into consultation. If I have to go to his website, look at the structure, look at what he's doing, look at the keyword sets, see how he's siloing, see the changes that he can make. I'm going to spend an hour on it, and I get 1,500 for that hour at the very least.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't have any problem analyzing, and providing suggestions and such, but that has to be in one of the paid groups, only because it's not fair for us to start clicking through and trying to analyze this site in only an hour, which we've only got 45 minutes left now anyways. Again, that's what the paid settings are for. So Emma, I'm not trying to disregard your question at all, but honestly, this is not really the forum for that.
No, but let's be clear too. I want to definitely go check out the groups if that's what you're looking for, Emil. But also for you and anyone else watching, if you have a very specific question that we can answer, just kind of get that here. That's what we need, right? We need something specific, not a, hey, what should I do to get results type of a question. So you can break this down and we're happy to answer it, but you got to explain it so we can do it here, because it's not fair to everyone else to have to go and do all this other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is, if we have to audit a site to provide suggestions, that's something that should be in a paid, because as Marco said, that's more of a consultative thing, which we provide in our groups, as long as the consultation can be, available to the other members in the groups, if that makes sense. Otherwise, it's a private one-on-one consultation, which, excuse me, yeah, that's a whole nother thing entirely. So again, if you want to clarify or create, post your question below with a more specific type of, something that we can comment on, that's fine. But we're not going to actually click through and take a look at your site right now, or the site structure and all that. Not in this setting. That's not what this is for. So we appreciate it.
There is a way that all right, brute force is alive and well in 2021 and going into 2022. It's alive and well. You can still use brute force. So if you don't want to make mad changes to the current website, you can still brute force it into submission. It just takes a whole lot more.
Yeah.
It just takes a whole lot more. So without being more specific, you could do that. But telling you which you should go with and which set of keywords, that again is something that we only deal with in the paid groups. I mean, in the heavy hitter, I would even be willing to go and look at your website if you were in one of the paid groups, and then give you guidance on what it is that you need to do. I'm not going to spend an hour on it, but I will give you guidance. But like Bradley said, and like Adam said, this is not the forum for it. And this is more for the benefit of everybody else also coming in. We'd love to answer general questions, marketing, SEO, whatever you got. This is very specific.
Yeah. Kenneth Cut says, where's Hernan? I haven't seen him in a minute. Hernan has parted from Semantic Mastery a couple of months ago now. He wanted to go full time into growing his Facebook ads agency. So he, it pains me to say so, because Hernan has been was a founding member, just like the rest of us. And he was like the class clown of the group. He was always a lot of fun, always brought levity to the group, like a lot of jokes and stuff like that. And I miss interacting with him on a regular basis. But yeah, he parted ways with us. So appreciate you asking about that. Anybody want to comment on that?
No, he will be giving a talk at POFU Live though.
That's
so
correct.
Yeah, if you're just dying for some Hernan and you're not involved in his ad stuff, then come to POFU Live.
I need my Hernan fix.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We wish him the best for sure. Henry says, question for the money site that is entered in the data for the SEO Power Shield, for example, domain.com. Is it correct to assume that all of the links linked from that site will benefit from this SEO Power Shield, like the blog, a folder, or forum dot? Well, no, if it's on a subdirectory, which you're calling a folder, then yes, it will benefit from it. But if it's your subdomains, will not, because your subdomains are considered separate websites entirely by Google, right? So unless you specifically put your subdomain URLs in the additional URLs field for pushing power to from your drive stack, which you can do that. If you have a subdomain that you want to include, then put that subdomain URL in the additional URLs field. But if you're talking about from the primary domain, no, it won't. Subdirectories will, because they're considered part of the root, but the subdomains will not. But as I mentioned, if you have subdomains, you can put those in the additional URLs field and they will get built into the stack. Is there anything else you want to comment on, Marco, for that?
No, I mean, that's fine. It'll benefit if it's a subdomain, if you put a link from the homepage to this, or somewhere on the website that you're powering up to the subdomain. You can't get power into it, or if you add it to the drive stack, but now you're splitting up the power that you're using into into a subdomain and the root domain. So you have to be careful how it is that you focus. And you could always do an inner page for the subdomain. We do that. We do drive expansions and G-site expansions. One of those could be focused on the subdomain to push power. Lots of ways that you could do this.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, next, he says, from the deep keyword research report, how many keywords from that report would be an optimal number to be uploaded for the SEO Power Shield build out? And how many keywords can I include for the additional keywords file upload, which will be for product reviews to have an optimal amount? I don't want to dilute potential SEO juice. Well, the beautiful thing about the drive stacks, and part of what we do with that, is to try to put as many keywords in there. And Marco's the one that, kind of brought this to my attention, as I used to take the keyword reports and I would go through and eliminate what I thought were non-relevant, because if they're informational type of queries as opposed to transactional or commercial type of queries and things like that, or if they weren't really relevant for like a commercial intent, then I would eliminate them from the keyword set, which I think makes sense when you're talking about using, anchor text for link building and things like that. But when you're talking about inserting the keywords into the metadata of the files in drive stacks, then it's better to have them all there, because if they were pulled into the keyword report to begin with, they are relevant, even if they're not 100% relevant to what your commercial intent is that you're trying to promote. They're still relevant to that that topic, right? Or that keyword or that set. And so it's important to put those in there. And what's interesting is if you do that, like if you include all of them, obviously if they're blatantly not relevant, they shouldn't be there, but they shouldn't have been pulled into the keyword report if that was the case. My point is, when you have the drive stack and all of that embedded into the metadata of those files, you'll see like an exponential growth in impressions in Search Console because of that. So that's, again, a lot of times I would spend a lot of time going through those keyword reports and deleting or eliminating. And I still do that because I like to have a clean list of keywords that I use for like link building and anchor text and stuff like that. But as far as the drive stack, submitting those keywords with the drive stack order to be built into the files and the folders and such, what is good to do that still. What I like to do though is take that kind of cleaner list that I've gone through and cleaned and make that the top of the list. Like in other words, the whatever, like let's say you end up with 100, and I'm just pulling this number out of the air, but let's say you end up with 100 really truly relevant keywords that you want, put those at the top of the list and then all the other ones at the bottom so that those are used more frequently in the build. At least that's been my experience. How do you want to address that, Marco?
That's exactly what the keyword research is all about, our deep keyword research. The brand that we do on the G site is everything that we can find relating to this entity, this thing on the web that's whatever your service or product or whatever it is that you do, products, affiliate, whatever it is that you're doing, everything that's related to it. We want that. We want that in that drive stack. We want that on the G site. We want to create all of that relevance. So you submit that if we were doing it, the entire keyword research gig, that spreadsheet, you would submit that. That file upload is exactly what you would upload to get all of those keywords in. It doesn't matter if they're commercial, non-commercial, doesn't matter the intent, doesn't matter if they're just supporting or related, they're relevant. And what we're trying to create is all of the relevance possible for the bot. We're trying to create the best entity in the niche, because that's who wins the game right now. If you have the best entity, you can actually compete against anybody. Like there is no one who's off limits, unless, as I said, because somebody will try to go and take on the Amazon brand with Amazon. You can't do that. You don't have $1 trillion to spend. Don't do that. You can take a vertical from Amazon and go into that and find niche down something that you like to do in that vertical somewhere and start there and work your way up into that niche. There's millions of dollars there. There's literally millions of dollars in those verticals, and there's too many to try to think about. There's so many. Think about it. It's $1 trillion company. How many millions are there available to you that you can get a piece of? So that's how you start breaking this down. But to start with, upload that keyword research spreadsheet that we give you. That's one of the keys to getting started, and to have us create all of that relevance from the start, so that when you link build, all of that relevance filters through.
There you go. Race Layer says, I have a lot of GMB verified accounts, 4,200 of them. Race Layer,
Holy crap.
You should, you and I should become best friends. 4,200 GMBs. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's fucking impressive, to be honest with you. Anyways, what is the best way to season them to keep them active? Software suggestions or spreadsheets? That's a tough one, because with 4,200, any software that you would use is going to be really expensive to keep them seasoned, to keep activity occurring on all of those. Now, I can tell you, I just started this week testing this right here, and I like it a lot, but there are some limitations. OneUpApp.io. it's going to log me into my account probably. I think it is. That's not what I wanted. Well, let me go into another. Let me go over here. Let me just show you. This is a like a GMB post scheduler, OneUpApp.io. And actually, this is a really good one. The reason I started testing with this, well, there's a couple reasons. One is the Easy Clout software that I've been using. There was some sort of a change and the GMB post scheduler is not working right now, and apparently they had some sort of theft occur at their office or some shit, and they said it was going to be a couple weeks before they could get it fixed. And that's kind of what happens sometimes when you buy AppSumo deals. So I hope to God that they continued, they fix it and they continue development on that, because I bought a lot of codes for that. Anyways, and I've been using it a lot, but so I needed something in the interim. So I heard about OneUp app a while back. So I started testing with this one just this week. And let's see, where's their pricing? I just want to show this to you because they do have an unlimited, but look at the price for unlimited, $1,000 a month. So $1,000 a month to be able to, and in case this says it only actually will only allow you to connect 1,000 social accounts. And would you say you had 4,200? So
Yep.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if, I'm not sure that I've ever heard of any that will integrate with that many locations. So I don't know what to tell you, other than, I really don't know what to tell you. Do you have any suggestions, Marco? 4,200 accounts?
I have absolutely, because I'm trying to figure out how I would do it, since I do manager, and with several hundred, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I can't imagine 4,200. Although, if, as I always say, come to one of the paid groups, we can figure it out.
Right there. Says, or you need to manage over 1,000 social accounts, contact for a custom plan. So, if you got 4,200 GMBs, you've probably got some investment capital. So I would maybe perhaps contact OneUp app, customer support, and find out what they can do for you, because I actually really, really like this. There's some limitations to this that I don't like, guys, just so you know. Like, for example, one of the reasons that I was attracted to this was because it has automate posts from RSS feeds. So here's an example. I've not found any other apps that would do this well. This one does, actually. It does it quite well. It gives you a lot of different options for how the content is fed through an RSS feed to whatever social accounts you're posting to, specifically for GMBs, though, because that's why I joined. It was specifically for GMB posting. You can take like the Press Advantage organization RSS feed, for example, and feed automatic posts to GMB, so that it links back to every press release that's published from that organization. So that's great. You could do it with the blog RSS. So if you got a money site and you're blogging regularly, you can set up automated posts to GMB. And it's really interesting how it works, because you can have one particular URL that every post that it produces from the RSS feed always links back to that one URL, or it can link back to the post URL itself, which is what I would prefer to do. The drawback is, though, look at their limitations on RSS feeds for each one of their account levels. Even at their $100 a month account level, it only allows 7 feeds, which doesn't make sense. If you got the ability to add 100 social accounts, essentially you could have 100 clients, but you only get 7 feeds. So I contacted their support just a couple of days ago and asked them specifically, like, is there any way to increase that limitation? Because it just seems ridiculous. And I literally said that, like, this limitation doesn't make any sense. And they came back and said, yeah, we can do $3 per month per additional feed, which it's reasonable, I guess. But I thought that was a little interesting. But again, that's really expensive. That's what I was looking at, like the unlimited RSS feeds. Well, I'm not paying $1,000 a month for that, I can tell you that. So, but if you have 4,200 accounts, contact for a custom plan, and maybe they'll be able to work it out. There's probably others that might be able to accommodate you as well. I just don't know of any.
Stay away from dirty APIs.
Yes.
And join one of the paid groups. Rather than being here, join one of the paid groups where we have a lot of coders, a lot of people who are in the know, who can probably do some custom stuff for you, rather than trying to fit what it is that you're trying to do into something that may not work. You could, this is totally worth. If this were me, I have 4,200 GMB. Somebody tells me, look, I'll build your custom software is going to be 30K. Like, I'm right there, because it's nothing compared to the benefit. I'm going to do a cost benefit analysis. I'm going to dump 30K in this, because if on 4,200 GMBs, if I only make 100 on each, I pay for it the first month, and that's only $100. You can spit and not do nothing and make $100 on each. So something to think about. Paid groups, man, where it's at. Mastermind.
Henry's up. He says, for the top silo pages in regards to site URL structure and keyword placement in the URL, can you comment on best practices for using WordPress, for example, should it be domain / / and that gets used in the nav menu or drop down under the blog, and all blog posts relating to the top of silo keyword get that one category assigned for the best SEO? No, my suggestion, use post name permalink settings only. Doesn't matter what your category hierarchy is. Like, well, first of all, keep it simple. I found that, like, guys, if there's one takeaway from today, it's keep your site architecture as simple as possible. Like, seriously, because you can overcomplicate it very, very quickly. And it becomes a nightmare to manage. Plus, it becomes much more difficult to direct link equity through the site when you overcomplicate site structure. So you want to keep your site structure as simple as possible. Number one. Number two is use the post name only URL structure. That's what I recommend. You can still look, Google likes succinct domains, like, or URLs, right? So, and there's really no need to show what is called the physical silo structure, right? Which is where it shows in the URL, like the hierarchy of how the content is stacked, or the, you know, the taxonomy structure of the actual URL. That's when it all shows, which would be like custom post name structure, permalinks, custom permalink with like category / post name in WordPress settings. But again, we probably 3-4 years ago switched to just doing the post name permalink structure, and it's a lot better, I think, because it's a shorter URL. Google likes that. I think it's better for users too, for the most part. And like I said, you also want to keep your site structure as simple as possible. And like, I don't like that, because look, you're talking about top of silo keyword is 3 directories deep. And that's not good for SEO, because then any supporting articles beyond that, because you're saying top of silo keyword, and I don't know how I mean, supporting articles would be 4 levels deep at that point. Like, I don't even understand what that, and again, I'm not trying to pick on you, but I don't know why there would be a blog in the URL to begin with, right? Because a blog, like, typically it's going to be domain.com / whatever category is, and then / your posts. And that's in a simple silo structure. If you're doing complex silo, where you're using categories and subcategories, then you might have domain.com / top level category / subcategory / post. But again, you think how quickly those URLs become way overcomplicated and super long. And it's also easy to over optimize URLs that way. So it's better to just, first of all, keep a simple silo structure. So top level category / posts. That's it. Now, if you need to use a complex silo, so you have top level category, child categories, and in posts, which in some cases that's necessary, then still I would recommend that you just use the post name permalink structure, because then it's just domain.com / post slug, right? And so you avoid over optimizing the URL, which is really easy to do nowadays. Does that make sense? So I don't know, Marco, what do you say?
No, absolutely. People ignore the distance graph algorithm, and that's where Google talks about the ranking score. It was the original 2015, and then it was updated to 2017, 2018. Well, I would say 2018, because that's when Google dropped the PageRank patent. I'm not saying that Google stopped accruing PageRank. They dropped it and incorporated it into the distance graph algorithm and the ranking score algorithm. And why nobody talks about this is beyond me. I don't hear people talking about the why. And the why is that when you have blog and when you have category and you have top silo keyword, what you're giving Google the signal is that the top silo keyword is not important, because it's 3 hops away from your most important page on the website, which is mydomain.com, and 2 hops away from your next most important page, which is blog. These are the signals that you're sending Google. Category, if you're going to do it complex, you got to move the category over to make sure Google understands that it's the next highest page on your website is the category,
Right?
And then go from there. But you're still 2 hops away from the main site. You're still going to have to link from that, or push enough power to that category so that Google understands the importance of that category page and understands that it's even more important than your home page, stops ranking that keyword on the home page, brings it to the category. Now everything attached to the category page becomes the next important. People don't understand why their blog posts stop performing, and it's because you're using this type of category.
Yeah.
Remember who told you?
Way too deep. Yeah. It is, and that's what I'm saying. And that again, that goes back to what I was saying about overcomplicating a site build, which can be done really easily. In fact, I talk about using tags for location silos, but you can actually really fuck up the in rank, right? Like the internal link sculpting or link equity sculpting of a site if you have too many tags too. Like it, and I found that out kind of the hard way, but because I was experimenting with some different configurations, and I found it's easier. Just first of all, keep the site structure as simple as possible. If you can just use simple silos and get away with that, which is like for at least for local, like 90% of the time, that's more than sufficient. And I found that to be just way better. You can get so much better being able to direct link equity throughout the site the way that you want. So you can push power to specific pages so much easier when it only has, a small amount of entry and exit points on any given page, if that makes sense. If you start adding a lot of tags or you add too many categories as subcategories and all that, it can really dilute the power throughout each individual silo and kind of spread your in rank or your internal link equity out too thin across too many other pages. And so it's much better just to consolidate all that stuff if you can, or if you haven't started the build yet, start the build in a simple, using a simple structure right off the bat, so that you avoid having to do it all later, which is kind of, like I said, some of the projects that I was testing some different methods on using more tags than fewer tags. I found over time that it became more complex than it needed to be. And I ended up having to go back and rework the site structure in order to get it to perform the way that I wanted it to. So, I've evolved. My opinion on that has evolved in the last few months. So.
Yeah, well, this is straight from the Google algorithm. Is that even opinion or theory or whatever? It's the direct math. This is how it works. More hops away you are, the more signals you're sending Google that it's less important. The closer you are to a trusted authoritative source, which in this case, it starts out with your homepage, then the signal that you're sending Google that it is more trusted and authoritative. Although when it first goes out, it's what we used to call PageRank 1. And in the next PR cycle, it'll go to 0 unless it's linked to an important page, to a trusted authoritative source. So imagine then you link from that blog post, which cycled and went to 0, and you link to that. Well, what are you linking to? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
Yeah.
The math just doesn't work. And so you're pushing all of these posts, and I see people all over the place. Well, I have 20,000 posts and I'm not ranking for anything. Nobody told you to pay attention to the ranking score algorithm and to understand the math behind the ranking score algorithm. That's where it's at.
Yeah. So Kenneth says, more questions. When you say content for SEO last week, how are you getting full entity from software? What software? Well, first of all, full entity, you mean entities. How do you identify the named entities within content, right? I think that's what you're asking. There's dozens of tools out there. They're a dime a dozen popping up now. Now there's only a few really good ones that I've tested so far. There's a lot of them popping up now, though, all over the place. AI tools are like the hot fucking thing right now. So they're popping up everywhere. But what I found is, first of all, it's best to try to go with one tools that have some history, right? Because they're continually being developed and things like that. What I want to caution you about, because I'm going to point one out here in a minute, is an AppSumo deal. What I want to caution you of is spending money on lifetime deals and things like that don't sometimes they don't get fully developed, or they just go away. Some of those apps or those services go away. So sometimes, depending on what it is that you want to, you're trying to do, it's better to go with a tool that might have a monthly subscription because it's being developed and it's being developed well. And they've got the capital to continue development because they have monthly subscribers. So I just want to point that out first, because there's a couple tools that I'm using. Well, I'm using multiple tools for this. And so I know Marco is too, but more recently I found, I'm going to talk about two in particular. One that I've been using for months that is really good, which is Surfer SEO. This is a really good one. And it integrates with Jarvis or formerly Conversion AI. So an AI writing assistant tool. It integrates, you have to have two separate subscriptions, but they integrate very, very well. And so that's a really good combination to use. Those aren't the only tools that I use, but they're really good tools to use. And again, they both come with monthly subscriptions. Again, this is Surfer SEO. If you don't need an AI writing assistant, but if you wanted one, Jarvis is a good tool because it integrates directly with this. Okay. That said, Outranking is a tool that I've been using more recently, and they have an AppSumo deal. I bought a lifetime deal before they were on AppSumo, and they just launched this on AppSumo a little while ago. And in fact, when I bought the lifetime deal several months ago, like it was pretty much an unusable tool. But I saw the roadmap, what we're planning for development, and I said, you know what, this looks like there's a lot of potential. So I paid for the lifetime deal many months ago, and they've really developed this one out. This is a great tool, guys. They do have some add-ons even with the AppSumo deal. Once you buy it, there's some add-ons that I think are necessary to make the tool fully, functional. So don't get it twisted. If you buy the lifetime deal, you're likely going to need, especially if you're producing a lot of content, you're likely going to need to upgrade or subscribe to one of the add-ons to give it the full functionality that you're going to need. But this is a really good tool, guys. I think this is one of my favorites now. I've been using this for the last three weeks or so, and it does about 70% of all the heavy lifting. I still do use other tools, but this tool does really well for about 70% of everything that I need it to do to produce really well-tuned content, or at least the outline. So again, that's what and I know Mark will comment on these as well, but these are two tools that I can suggest are really good for optimizing for entities, named entities. There's also some other ones that are a little bit more advanced, but I'm not even going to bring those up right now, because if you're just getting started and if you have to ask what is a named entity, then you want to stick with a tool that's a little bit easier to use. I think this one is more for like strictly SEO content, and Surfer SEO is more for like more general type content. Obviously there's SEO stuff, and there's a lot of SEO baked into this, so to speak. But I think this is more for pure SEOs, and this one is more for more general uses to help optimize content. So that's my opinion. Marco, what do you say?
Surfer is a fantastic piece of software.
Great. It's great.
So is conversion, but then phrase is also a really good tool. Inlinks, Quillbot. Yep. We're just testing the software that you're suggesting. We picked that up a couple of weeks ago, and that's being tested by my VA. So all I do is I get the software. They know the processes. They know what to do. They go and test it, and then they write a report on what the tool is about, the features, and how it can be implemented, or whether it can be implemented into what we use. We use WordTool. We use, I think I mentioned Quillbot. There's a couple others that we use that no, I will not mention, because I mean, Jordan, as far as one of them, he asked for it not to be mentioned. And then the other one is because I happened to pick up on that and starting using it, and had my VA go and use it and see how it could be applied, and how she came back with a very detailed report on how it can be incorporated into what we're doing. So that's what I'm expecting with the new software that's being tested out. But the main thing to get from all this, we're using 7 now. It's going to be 8 pieces of software. I don't know if this other one is going to fit into the flow of what we do, but you can't rely on 2 or 3 pieces of software, because what you'll start seeing is that you'll get entity suggestions, different entity suggestions from the different software.
Yep.
The key is to train someone into how to incorporate all of these different pieces. Like Inlinks will give you fantastic suggestions. It'll give you FAQ. It'll give you just a whole bunch of references to Wikipedia. It's going to give you a lot of things that the others won't. And so the idea here is to then create a process, which Jordan created the initial process, on how you incorporate all of these different pieces so that you're sculpting. Because I don't know of any other way to describe it. You're sculpting the entity into the best entity possible for that page, the main entity, as well as the named entity, if there is one. And I treat a named entity a little bit differently than anybody. What I treat as a named entity is different. As a matter of fact, Dixon Jones did one of the charity webinars that he did was on entities, and he talked about named entities. So you're welcome to give my charity a donation, and I'll hook you up with with the charity webinar. They're coming up again real soon, by the way.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I just actually 2 weeks ago for my mastermind webinar, I demoed phrase and outranking and Surfer and Jarvis and those 4 tools. And you know, my conclusion was that if I had to only choose one right now, it would probably be outranking. But I still use all 3 of these tools plus inlinks, as Marco just said, plus Quillbot. Inlinks, I think I don't think anybody, like if you're new to this kind of stuff and you got to ask what an entity is, I don't know that inlinks is probably the best. It's got some really powerful features, but I think it's a little bit more advanced. I think this is one of the simplest to use. And it's got some really great features in here too. Like I said, it integrates with Jarvis, which is great. If you want to use an AI writing assistant like this, the combination between Jarvis and Surfer is hard to beat. There's no question. But like this one does it, you know, like I said, I even tasked my blogger too to do the same. Is I said, you know, here, try all these different tools, and and she really likes this one as well. Like I said, I think we produce about 70% of the workflow now is done in outranking, and then we kind of fine tune it a little bit with mainly with Jarvis to kind of flesh the outlines out a little bit more, and then I do the final tune using inlinks. So that's just kind of how our workflow is. So. Anyways, that was a good question.
Yep.
Arby says, I wanted to ask about optimization given the Google Core Vitals updates, as I've seen a few posts elsewhere saying that Google has shifted SEO again. Google is always shifting their algorithms, always. In particular, I wanted to ask, is the update attacking any particular type of backlink method? I don't know. The Google Core Vitals update, I thought the Core Vitals update was more about like on-page factors than off-page. Am I right in that assumption?
That was user experience, page speed, and a whole lot of other things that turned out to be nothing, because I mean the art of art still to this day trumps anything that Google is going to throw at you. You focus on the art of art, the pillars, activity, relevance, trust and authority. Trust and authority are together because they go hand in hand. You can't have trust if you don't have authority, and you can't have authority if you don't have trust. So art, since we focus on that, it doesn't matter what Google does, because you're sending more positive signals than what Google is adjusting for, especially since we focus on entities for activity, relevance, trust, and authority. So everything starts with that brand, how the brand and entity are related, how all of the keywords, which are sub-entities or related entities or what's relevant for that main entity, we focus on that. And again, we sculpt it. And we not only sculpt the content, we sculpt the schema. So it's custom schema. It's not just software, although we have built software that does what Rob teaches in his course, in his schema tech course, or schematic architecture. We're building the software that does exactly what he teaches, to customize the schema exactly the right way. Because in our tests, we've shown that only schema in and of itself will move the needle. A lot of people say it doesn't. We've proven that it does. We've shown that if you only apply custom schema the correct way, it moves the needle, absent everything else. And so it's all of these things. You can't do just one thing. Like if you focus on content only, it's going to take you 1.5 years, 2 years before Google even takes an interest in you, unless you pound it with content over and over again. You do like this guy, Tarai, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's just, the way that he approaches entities with his content is fantastic. And I have yet to see anyone approach content that way. Unless you got a mind like that, where you're processing content that way, then you have to have an all-encompassing or holistic, as you've mentioned, approach to all of this, or else it's not going to work. There's no way that it can all work now unless you just brute force it. So that's the other option. It's to hammer it, but then how much risk versus how much reward? How well rewarded are you going to be if you brute force it, and if you risk everything by brute forcing? Rather concentrate all of your energy into doing it correctly, into working on all of the pillars the right way, so that if anything happens in any of the 3 pillars, the other 2 will make up for it, because they'll be producing infinite power, infinite ranking score power. Think about that. Think about that for a second. That's available not in the free groups, Come to the dark side and we'll show you how.
Yeah, so the next question was, does Google, as a result of the update, have some changed preferences for content or other website criteria for ranking? Well, yeah, like one thing I can mention is, stop optimizing for keywords and optimize for the topics, right? Like you should be optimizing for topics, not for keywords, right? Like essentially that's the whole point. That's one of the biggest takeaways of some of the more recent algorithm updates and everything is the semantic web, right? So topic, and that's where we talk about named entities, entity tuned content and all of that kind of stuff, because you should be optimizing for the entire topic and not just for keywords anymore. That would be one thing I would say. And another was, is it easier to rank for optimized, or is it easier ranking for optimized voice search? Well, that's becoming more and more critical. And I've actually experienced that through some just by accident, because some of my clients I've added just more recently, I've just started using Yext power listings. I use as a reseller through SEMrush. So it's like $20 a month or whatever. But it's essentially the same service as Yext power listings. And they have several voice search engines that the Yext power listing submits to. And I even had one of my tree service clients contact me probably 5 or 6 weeks ago now and said that, hey man, one of my, I just had a lead come through from the GMB. And when I asked them how they heard from us, and they said that all they did was picked up their phone and said his company name into Google, and it immediately called. Like, it didn't even pull up the search. They said call and the name, and it went, and like, they've never had any interaction with his company before, but it literally just called that company, which was really, really cool. And that has to do with the voice search. So that is becoming more and more important. But if you optimize your content properly and you mark it up correctly, it will, it will account for that. Like, in other words, it will help to appear or help the entity to essentially be found within voice search. And when people ask voice search, like Alexa would be one of them, Google Assistants and there's several of those now. I don't really use any of them, but like I said, I thought it was really interesting to have my client call me and mention that. Like, he was like, man, that's really cool. And I was like, yeah, well, and I told him, I was like, that's kind of a newer service that I just started using, which I didn't tell him it was Yext power listings, but that's essentially what it was. So that's what my suggestion would be. You want to comment on that before I move on?
Schema for voice search, man. Schema for voice search.
Yeah.
Works fantastically well.
Yeah. And if you're doing local, like I said, there are some, Yext power listings is one of them that will submit to like all the different assistants and voice, whatever they're called. Alexa being one of them, Google Assistant being another. Eddie says, unfortunately, I'm in the middle of a legal battles with my biz partner and will be dissolving my business. I'm going to be forced to shut the primary domain down. However, I can legally use all content from the site, and I scooped up a new and better exact match domain to relaunch with a new company. I want to clear the way for me to rank again using all the same content on the new domain. With de-indexing the original website help, I will be using the same exact content again on the new domain, and the current site will be shut down. If the current site's shut down, I don't think it will matter because Google will, eventually re-index the new one. So I don't think that it'll matter. I understand the new domain will lack authority, links, etc., and I will have to build it all up again. If you were in my shoes, are there any other tricks outside of de-indexing the original site that might help clear the way for me to rank? Well, yeah, I mean, like in Search Console, you can tell of a site, like a site moving, right? I forget what the exact terminology is, but you can, if the original site's going to be shut down, but it was in Search Console, there's a way to migrate the site, to change address. I think that's what it's called. But you can again, that if the other domain has to, because of the legal battle, has to be like, not registered or not used at all, then yeah, I mean, as far as I know, it would just be move all the content to the new domain. However, if it's just that old domain cannot be live anymore, then I would do the website address change function in Search Console once all the new content has been migrated or all the content's been migrated to the new domain, because that's basically telling Google, hey, we changed the website from this domain to this domain. And it takes some time. It doesn't happen overnight, but Google will start to push like all of the data and everything over to the new domain, if that makes sense. So it really depends on what the situation is with the domain itself. If you can do that, that's what I would suggest. I've done that for clients that change domains and it worked well. What do you say, Marco?
I'm wondering if he can like redirect the old domain, since he's going to be using the same exact content, like do a page by page redirect, 301 redirect, rather than just an moving the address, because then that'll keep all of the link building and everything else intact, and that will take over minus more or less 15% of the original power, which is what's making it rank, right? The original activity, relevance, trust, and authority. So if you can push that over, I don't talk to you, I don't know. Doesn't sound like it's a clean break.
Yeah.
But if you can just have it redirected for 3 months, 6 months, and then just push a ton of power to that 301, through all of those 301 URLs to the new domain, or into a Power Shield over to the new domain, then you're good to go. And just link building will make up for any link loss, and will actually boost it up a little bit more.
Yeah. And even when you do a website address change in Search Console, you should still 301 redirect the old domain to the new, like that. You should still do that regardless. But I'm just saying, you can literally tell Google, hey, we're changing the website address of this website. And that's a good way to do it. So. Okay, Padre Mac, we've only got a couple minutes left. So he says, on a directory site, would you use the same as schema for client listing pages, referencing their money site, etc.? If you're talking about, if you're building a directory site and you're linking to client pages, for example, you can add schema to the directory page, right? So the directory page for the client, then yes, if you want to inject schema into that, which you absolutely should. I'm building a directory, and that's what I do. I use local business schema on the directory pages, right? I just change some of the, same as and things like that but yeah, I add structured data to my directory site for clients, for anybody paying, I use the directory for prospecting. If so, obviously, and the only time that it gets schema is if it's a client or somebody that's responded and, purchased something from me or whatever. So, but yeah, you can absolutely do that.
I would add the same as to the client site, not the other way around, because it's your client site. So the listing on the directory is the same as, or a part of, the main entity, which is the client site, not the other way around. So be careful with that.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, on the directory site, I put same as schema, which will also link over. Well, no, because even on the directory site, I still put the URL of the client site as their money site, not the directory page, right? The directory page is the same as. So,
all right, just be careful how you're doing that schema. That's all. That
Henry
page.
says, I'm sorry.
What we do on tier 1 branded and other things that belong to the entity, to the main site, is we put the same as on the organization. The organization, those are the same as the organization, not necessarily the organization. And you don't want to claim that the directory as parent of the main site. Be very careful how you do that.
Right. I understand that. So Henry says, question, so filter place, so this must be from the keyword question earlier. He says, so filter, place my top keywords in the first 100, top keywords in the first 100, and submit all other keywords in the report tabs labeled silos, keyword intent categories.
Oh, he does have a deep keyword research kit.
Yeah.
Submit the spreadsheet.
Maybe the G trends list, and should like keywords be grouped before uploading.
So, all right. So he's going to have a place where he can list up to 200 or more than, if I forget exactly how we are. Put your most important ones there, but then upload that entire spreadsheet.
Yeah. If you have additional questions about that, Henry, just post in the Facebook group, the free Facebook group, and we'll try to get that answered for you if that's not real clear. 5 o'clock, guys. We're going to shut it down. We thank everybody for being here. We'll see you guys